Hey, by the way, tonight's game, New York wins that outright.
You know he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for February 18th. How is everyone doing? My name is Erik. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. Absolutely loaded episode for you today. No Gino. Gino is on the DL. He is a little bit sick, so he wasn't able to send in a horse racing bet. But my man from down south, sunny Florida, when I'm freezing my ass up here in the Chi, my boy Jake, better known as Money Badger Jake on social media. He started up the Money Badger Bet account where he posts all his bets for free, and he's starting to do stuff with the guys over at the Better Process Discord. Excuse me, I'm battling a little sickness too. Before I welcome him on, I would like to say thank you to the sponsor of the show, JustOutTennis.store. Make sure to go there. Use promo code ETOFT21. That way they know old Uncle Rico sent you. And Prophet Hex, go there. Betting exchange, phenomenal people. Promo code ETOFT21. Now let's welcome my man, Money Badger Jake, to the show. Jake, what is up, my friend?
What's up, Erik? How we doing?
You know what? I'm cold as hell, dude. I'm freezing. I'm ready for the effing summer. You know, it's one of those things. Like I was talking to someone when it was like 100 degrees here, I was like waiting for the winter, and now it's like -7, and I'm like waiting for the summer. It's just a constant cycle, dude.
Yeah, you'll do anything for that heat. You're like, wow, why was I so stubborn back in like August, and I was complaining that I was sweating, and now it's like -2. I remember those days.
What's the weather where you at, man? Just kind of rub it into me, dude.
You really want me to rub it in right this second?
Rub it in, man.
I'll give you the exact 72 right now. Feels like 73. Yeah, I'll even give you the feels like just 1 degree higher.
One feels like -4. 16-mile-per-hour winds. Yep, that is my life.
You're just saying it. How it's just that time of the year where like nothing beneficial is happening with cold weather. Like it's cool around the holidays, but you hit like the end of January, early February, and you're like, I'm ready for the summer again. And you just have like 2-3 months left of like 2-degree weather. So
we got some questions pouring in. Let's start off. RG chimes in. Can Marquette make a run in March, or do they count on Cam Jones too much and don't have that second guy?
I personally think, just from watching March Madness my entire life, anything can happen in March, honestly. I mean, we've seen Loyola Chicago make runs. We've seen FAU make runs. So really anything can happen. It matters who's playing the best ball in a couple of weeks.
For me, I think last year when he was playing off the ball, I think they were better. Like right now they're relying on him too much with the ball in his hands. And I feel he's just not as good like playing the one. I think he needs to play the two, play off the ball a little bit more. And the offense, in my eyes, flows a little bit better. But anytime he gets shot with a dog, you definitely want to be invested in him in March. He's usually good. NAA86 with Texas's win over Kentucky and them having the easiest remaining schedule in the SEC, will they be able to make a run to get into the tournament?
It's tough, man. What do you think?
Long term, that's the worst thing that could probably happen because I'm not high on their coach. Like, they got rid of Bird when that whole Bird thing went down, and when that went down, they brought in Tunney or however you pronounce his name, and they made that Elite 8 run. I believe they lost to Creighton, or maybe it was a Sweet 16 they lost to Creighton. They just long term, I don't think he's the answer. So them not making the tournament, I think it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm pulling up their schedule right now. They still do have, even though if they have an easier schedule, they still have to go through Ole Miss again, Georgia, Oklahoma, like all teams that are very well capable of beating them.
Georgia, for me, is a team I do not want to see in the NCAA tournament. I literally cannot effing stand that team.
I'm done seeing Georgia in all college things right now.
I cannot stand that team at all. They have that big who's great, Noel, can't shoot worth shit. This is usually the type of the show, and I don't know how you feel about this, where I go on Mike White not taking a timeout in the first 4 minutes of the second half. Like, they were winning that game at halftime over the weekend. I'm spacing which team they're playing against.
I can't put any intel over the actual game this weekend because I was away this weekend, so I placed my bets based on my data, but I didn't get to watch as much ball, and I knew I wasn't missing much in the NBA. So,
I mean, they were up. It was against Missouri. They're up against Missouri. Missouri
Georgia
can't miss. Yeah. Missouri comes out. Can't miss. And I get frustrated because, and I don't know how you feel about this, these coaches are so excited about having timeouts when the game's over. I look at it like this. There's so many goddamn reviews. These timeouts don't mean shit.
Oh, yeah.
They don't mean shit. So for me, I would rather manage that first 4 minutes. So if there is a team that's a good shooting team like a Missouri, Auburn, Alabama, whoever, has that 8-0, 10-0 run,
right,
flips it, I want to use a timeout there and not be really worried about having those timeouts at the end of the game because there's so many reviews. I'm going to be able to I'll use the term cherry pick a timeout.
Right. I mean, that you can use that term because that's essentially what it is. And I think there's two ways of looking at it. You can look at it as if a timeout is needed in the first 4 minutes, totally take it, right? It also depends on the pace of the game. If you're coming out hot now in that scenario where Mizzou is just making everything, I get it. Call a timeout, stop the momentum.
Exactly. It's just
totally get it. And you're right. There's so much stoppage at the end of games. Anytime the ball goes out of bounds, you know that they're going to review it. And even if they review for 15 seconds, that's still a quick little timeout that you get to draw something up or talk over what you want to do if a bucket is made or if you get a stop or when you want to foul. So
sports facts, my boy, Houston, this is the year. My thing with Houston is I always feel you need to have that NBA guy. And we saw last year when they played Duke, their guard, whose name I'm totally spacing on, went out and their offense just died. They had nobody that could get a bucket.
Yeah.
That guy in that half court set that can be the bucket getter. I just don't think they have that this year.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's interesting, though, because they're in a decent offensive system this year. I feel like their offense is a little more smooth than it's been over the past. They've been known for their defense, but they don't have that one playmaker, which could be a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing if you're not relying on one player to just take things home in big games. And, hey, we've been here before. We've been in big games, and we've won without that one guy consistently doing their thing and getting us over the hump here. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. My boy, let's make some money. Great call on Miss State. And
I'll say one thing though, Eric, about going into this March. I actually have no clue who could take this thing home. If someone asked me, who do you think is going to win it all? I can throw some hype beast names out there. But I actually have no clue. There's been so many teams that have started off great and are actually shitting the bed right now. And there's been vice versa, teams getting hot right now that I didn't expect to be that great. And I said it earlier, anything can happen in the next 2 weeks. It depends on who plays their best ball.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this is the one year I'm okay, it's not going to be UConn. It's not going to probably be Kansas, Kentucky. Might not be Houston, but it still can be all of those teams,
I kind of feel and all these teams are giving us reason why we need to kind of back off and say, hey, you know what? Maybe they can't win it. Case in point, Alabama against Texas, just let it rain, couldn't hit the broadside of the barn against Auburn.
Yeah.
Auburn, I feel like Boone is a wine glass. I feel he could break down at any point, and when he breaks down, their offense is nothing.
Right. And that's what I was just saying about where it could benefit Houston. They don't have that one guy where if he breaks down, they're absolutely shit out of luck. They could still pull something together, not relying on one guy. I'm going to talk about Alabama. They're obviously one of my plays that I'm going to share is in that game tomorrow. So I'll wait to say my piece when that time comes.
David P chimes in. Who are your dark horses for each conference? I'll say Michigan, Syracuse, Arkansas, Texas, and St. John's.
Yeah, see, I'm not prepared for that question, so I'm just going to leave it blank because I don't want to put a bunch of BS out there.
So you know what, dark horses is my specialty, man. This is what I thrive at. So
you put a lot of futures in, or
I have 3 futures in right now. I got Michigan State at 40-1 to win it all. And then I got Texas Tech. I got them early at like 16-1 to just make the Final Four, and Texas A&M 20-1 to win it all. That's all I'm working on right now.
When did you put those in? Like,
oh my God,
I put way early, right?
Jesus,
November. You got those. I mean, for Michigan State at 40-1.
Yeah, I mean that's when everyone thought State was just down.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with the ACC.
Yeah,
I kind of like SMU. Like, that's kind of the team I think they could make a run in the tournament, potentially be a dark horse to win the ACC tournament. That's what I'm going to be looking at in that one. Big Ten. You know who's playing really good ball in the Big Ten? Nebraska. Nebraska's been playing some good ball this month. Nebraska has been playing good ball. UCLA is always going to be tough. Maryland has the pro player in the big. They have guards that can create themselves. But I mean, I feel with the Big Ten, you got to see the bracket because it's just so matchup dependent because you need those bigs, especially if you're going to look to play Michigan, who runs that two big set.
It's funny you bring up Nebraska too. I'm not sharing them as one of my plays when we're talking about it in a little bit here, but I do have them tomorrow too. I'm a little high on Nebraska, especially as of late.
They've been playing well, and I think they could be a team that could do it. Big 12, look, I absolutely love this Texas Tech squad. I think this team is dynamite. They have the pro player and top end, electric guards. They have bigs.
They shoot the ball well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can shoot the three. The excellent coach, and the reason I like their coach used to be at North Texas. At North Texas, he won with defense. Now he's completely changed his style, and he's completely winning with offense, shooting threes and everything. Completely a different game. But they're going to be the 3 seed. They're going to be really low.
Mm-hmm. We look at a team like Kansas too.
Kansas, to me, like, how can I word this? I just don't think Self has found a rotation because when I watch him, I really have no idea, like, what is he trying to do? And I hate Hunter Dickinson. I think Hunter Dickinson is awful.
Yeah.
I kind of would like Baylor. Baylor's just no depth though. BYU. They've won 2 in a row.
The Big 12 is the hardest for me to choose from right now. This is why I can't pick and choose because like Arizona's in there too.
Oh yeah, Dave.
Like they're just it's absolutely stacked. But if we're talking dark horses, that's why I say Kansas. Even though it's hard to hear that they could be a dark horse, they haven't found their flow. But if they do, like they're Kansas. But you can say that about any of these teams.
And they're going to be a big price to win the tournament. They're going to be a big price to win the NCAA tournament and also to win the Big 12. In terms of the Big East, I'll tell you what, you look at it since the beginning of March, Nova lost with Creighton at 2 at home, beat St. John's, which is an elite defense. You know, they're up against UConn. If they show up against Marquette on Friday, that's going to be a telling sign. They got Dixon. They got the answers. Tough. I think Nova could be somebody.
I've been high on St. John since last year. I will say that. And this year they've looked even better than I thought they were going to look. I don't know if they have it in them to make a big run, though. I'll say that.
Excuse me. My thing with St. John's is they can't make free throws.
Yeah.
That's going to be the one thing with them. SEC, I mean, Jesus, dude. That's Vanderbilt could be a dark horse team. I mean, they got some guards, they got some bigs. I like their coach, who was at James Madison last year. That's going to be a tough one for me. I will say this: there are two teams that I'm going to absolutely hammer in the tournament when if they make it.
To win it all?
No, just to make the round of 16.
Oh, okay.
Just to make the round of 16, and probably in that fourth what is it? The 4 13-12 matchup. The first one, obviously, UC Irvine. I absolutely love that team. And I kind of like San Diego, Cal San Diego. So I kind of like those two teams, kind of unique styles, good defensive teams, kind of like them. David P. Futures Master. David
answered the question.
He likes SMU tomorrow -2. SMU guard. Miller has been instrumental. Okay, what are some key matchups that you are looking at over the weekend? We'll get into that in a second. Let's get to a takeaway. We each kind of have a takeaway for it. Jake, you're the guest. I'll let you kick it off. What is your takeaway for the show, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I think my takeaway, not much happened this weekend other than a couple of things. Obviously, college basketball. I said I didn't get to watch much of it, even though I had my plays out. I was on a little vacation. Then there was the All-Star break, and we had this Four Nations hockey tournament going on, which I don't handicap hockey at all. I'm a big Devils fan, but like if you ask me who the best player on each team is, I won't know him. But watching those boys play each other versus watching the NBA All-Star game, I mean, it's a night and day difference, dude. And you can even tell, one, when a G League player is the most hype around an entire NBA All-Star weekend, I mean, that's when you know things have to change. And then two, not really playing devil's advocate for that statement, but the fact that things are changing in this All-Star game every year is clearly showing that they're trying to find something to spark the attention of viewers again. And what got the most popularity back in the day was when all these All-Stars were taking part in the dunk contest and were actually playing the All-Star game like it mattered, like when Kobe used to be D'ing up LeBron and talking his shit, and they were actually trying to play, and it wasn't just like, hey, have fun going and, throwing down an easy-ass layup. So it's interesting to me that the All-Star break was that much more elite back in the day when it was taken serious and it was a little more competitive. And now you see like the NHL has this four nations tournament now where they're all taking it serious. They're actually trying to win. I guess they are representing their country, but it just has a different vibe to it, man. I'm finding myself putting those games on when I'm sitting here instead of any other games, and I don't even have any money on the games or anything. So I'd say that's my one takeaway. Not much action, but it's just so clear to me that the NBA basically has to do something about that. And like look at NHL, a sport that isn't watched too often. The hockey, the puckheads love their hockey, but I mean everyone's watching this tournament. So, have you watched it?
I mean, I was out on Saturday night where we're at. It was on. Watched a little bit about it, but that was it. But I mean, like, what I look at it like this: like players got to care. You know what I mean? And the NBA players just don't care. Like Giannis had a great idea, NBA against the world, but when you sit back at it, there's always going to be snubs on the US side, just because there's so many US players. The world side just isn't quite there yet. And then he said, let's take it to Paris. Let's take it to London. Players are going to opt out of that.
Yeah. I don't think that'd be successful.
Players are going to opt out of that. Jake from State Farm, kidding.
First time I've heard that one, David.
Sport to handicap.
Yeah, and I'll say this because they were just talking about it this morning on SportsCenter. I don't think it would be a bad idea to do like a USA versus the world game or something because it would be a good matchup. I agree, some USA guys would get snubbed, but you look at some of the top players in the league, they are international talent. Jokic. You have SGA, you have Giannis, you have Wemby. Like you have these guys that are top tier talent in the league right now where I would think it would be a good game. I just don't think it would have as much hype. It wouldn't be that easy of a fix, let's just say. Why not? It would be a nice fix. Seeing John Morant, seeing Jaylen Brown, all these guys in the dunk contest are doing something cool, which I saw that sparked a little bit of interest too when Mac McClung was doing his thing, and who was it, John Morant, or someone said, hey, this motivated me to maybe take part next year or something along those lines.
We'll see it. I mean, I think it would be great if they did. I mean, the dunk contest used to be something. Now it's just,
all anyone wanted to watch was the dunk contest.
It's just,
now it's almost cringy.
It's nothing. Cap checks in, my boy.
Yeah, that's my puckhead in a Better Process Discord.
But what is your best sport to handicap, my friend?
I say my favorite is football. I'm statistically best at MLB, so that's coming up. I'm excited for that. Basketball season is typically my worst, and I think a big part of that is because like the transition from football into basketball, like I'm still knee deep in football. There's bowl games going on when basketball season is getting started. Then I start handicapping basketball, and there's not huge sample sizes, and the NBA is like a mess with all their injuries. So the transition for me is a little difficult into basketball, but then I usually pick up, I'd say like around February, this time of year, January, February, where there is a decent sample size. You have a good feel of how these teams are playing, both in college and the NBA. The trade deadline's over with. So in short, baseball is my best. What I like the most, probably because I'm biased, I played football in college, is football.
David P., now you're speaking my language. MLB is my favorite as well.
I just think the MLB
and the ball with the stick.
Yeah, and pucks with the stick, I guess. I think with the MLB for me, Erik, is you could find – I feel like there's so many better ways to find edges with starting pitchers and a bullpen and knowing who's available in a bullpen and knowing what lineups are hitting best against right-handed pitchers and left-handed pitchers. I think the data that could be provided is easier to base my predictions and like have my leans and find my plays more confidently than basketball where guys get ruled out last second or someone could run a crazy high pace randomly in one game versus their typical average. So I think that's why I'm best at MLB, which makes me like it obviously too. I'm also a Yankee fan though, so it's easy liking the best franchise in sports history.
Clean sweep of the board last night. Awesome job. David P. Never trust the kids. Waiting for Erik's Brian Wu Love Fest in a couple of months. Welcome to Diamond Bets. So David and I every Friday do this Diamond Bet show where we bet MLB. He always gives me shit because I'm always betting my Brian Wu first five, Brian Wu strikeout props or whatnot.
Is it profitable? Probably.
Oh my God, Brian Wu funded my vacation. This kid, I love this kid. My takeaway: Kentucky is a fade in the tournament against a 3-point shooting team. When I'm looking at the numbers here, defensively, they're 246 2-point defense. They give up the 355th most 3-pointers per game. But this is the mind-boggling stat. Opponents are only shooting 29% from deep against them. So they're giving up a lot of threes. People aren't making them. That's top 20 in the country 3-point percentage against. And they're giving up that many. You know what I mean? It's just a lot.
They're getting a little lucky. They're just getting a little lucky.
They're pretty lucky. Teams are missing wide open looks. They're finally going to run into that team that's going to be able to make some threes, and that's why I'm going to be betting against them. Now, I have serious questions about their guards. Offense struggles when Butler is not out there. Who's been injury prone all year. When you look at Pope this year, Pope in his career, 41.7% ATS in tournament games. Plus, now he's going to have the pressure at coaching at Kentucky, where every game feels life or death. I just don't see him handling that well. Bottom line, Kentucky is a fade for me come the last week of March. I don't even think they make it to the Sweet 16. Yes, Brian Wu.
Erik, do you want to know another thing about Kentucky? Is their night and day, home and away.
Yeah.
Away, they're much worse on defense, much worse on offense. They struggle to score the ball. And where are all these games played come in March? Nine Kentucky. So that can also be a little roadblock for them.
Now we're going to switch our attention over to the betting part. Jake and I are each going to share 3 bets. But before we get into all that, we need to look back at how we did last week. Last week, we were 5-1 with XFL Jim hitting Robert Morris plus 3.5, Troy minus 8.5, but losing Loyola, Maryland -1. Old Uncle Rico hit Villanova plus 3.5, South Carolina plus 5, and Georgia Tech -1.5. For college basketball on the show, we are now 5-1 in our bets. We switched over to college basketball last week, first one post Super Bowl. So we're looking to continue the run. Missouri in a serious Turner's team. Let's talk about it. I'm biased. David P chimes in. Home court always matters in college. Oh yeah, totally agree with both.
Fields, anything in college.
Let's go to Jake. Jake's first play. Tell us.
Alrighty. Yeah, my first play. First of all, those are big shoes to fill. 5-1. Guess the only thing we could do better here is sweep. What?
I hope so, man. I hope so.
Right?
We can sweep, dude. Let's do it, my man. I'm all for it, brother.
All right, cool. I mean, that's always the goal. Every card we put out, we think is going to be a sweep, or else we wouldn't put them out. But yeah, my first play, I'm putting 1 unit on VMI plus 6.5. Now I want to explain something really quick. I do have a little model that I create based off of the efficiency numbers. I take the last 3 overall games and I average them out with the splits, right? So in this case scenario, Wofford is at VMI. So I took Wofford's last 7 on offensive efficiency and I averaged it out with what they're doing away, vice versa with VMI. And that's how my model works. So if you hear me say my model is projecting this number, that's where I'm getting that number from. I just like to explain that ahead of time. So yeah, Wofford does have a slight edge in offensive efficiency. That's what my model is projecting. But in their last game, they've actually played their worst offensive game in the last 3 weeks. And that game was versus VMI. They did win by 7, so it would have covered this number. But their last game, they had a .982 offensive efficiency, where VMI's last game, they had a 1.129 offensive efficiency. So offensive efficiencies, you want that high. Defensive efficiencies, you want that low. So even though the model is kind of leaning towards Wofford ever so slightly, I like where VMI is trending and I don't like where Wofford's trending. On the flip side, VMI has a huge edge when it comes to defense. My model is projecting them to have a giant edge here. Now, keep in mind, they're getting 6.5 points, right? It's not like if this was a money line or a pick-em game, I probably wouldn't be on VMI, but with 6.5 points, I'm going to take them along with these trends that I found. Wofford, in their last 5 overall, they're 2-3, and in their last 5 away games, they're 3-2, not terrible. But VMI, in their last 5 overall, they're 3-2. In their last 5 home games, they're 4-1. And on the season, they're 7-2 against the spread at home. So they're getting 6.5 points. Offensively, the model is showing that, they're neck and neck with VMI playing better last game. Defensively, they have a huge advantage, and I'm getting 6.5 points. I'm going to put 1 unit on it. I saw the line earlier on FanDuel at -115. So that's going to be the first play that I'm sharing here.
I like that one. David chimes in. I like this guy already. Similar numbers. I've got this line at VMI +5, taking the 6.
Hear that.
Great minds think alike. My first bet, I am going to my favorite conference of all. It's a conference that's going to let me down in March, man. I'm going to the Mountain West. Give me Boise State -2.5. I feel this is a great spot to fade New Mexico. They're coming off a big win over Utah State. Now they are 2 games up in the Mountain West Conference. They extended their winning streak to 8 games, prime letdown spot. When we look at it the last 2 seasons, Boise State 65.2% ATS at home. Richard Pitino really struggles against the number on the road, 42.9% overall. In conference games, 39.8. When he's a conference dog, 38%. One thing that New Mexico does really well, and they rely on a lot, is to get to the line, but Boise State doesn't foul that much. And even when New Mexico does get to the line, they're only shooting 69%. During this 8-game winning streak, New Mexico has been holding opponents to 28% shooting from deep. I'm a big shooting regression type guy. Those numbers aren't sustainable. I expect Boise State, who does play better at home, to be able to make some threes. Boise State has the third best defense defensively against the three-pointer in the Mountain West. New Mexico is shooting 39% from three during this 8-game winning streak, due for some negative shooting regression. New Mexico also very good rebounding the ball, but when we look at the numbers, Boise State is just as good rebounding the ball, and they allow the fewest rebounds per opponent. So I think they're going to be able to limit New Mexico's second chance points. Also, revenge spot for Boise State, losing to New Mexico earlier in the season. That was a get-right spot for New Mexico. They're just coming off getting upset at San Jose State. Also, when I cap a game and I get a really slow-paced team at home against a fast-paced team, I'm going to take the slow-paced team. Give me Boise State -2.5. I hate when Erik makes too much sense. New Mexico State money line. Thank you, my friend. Next bet, my friend. You are going where and why?
Yeah, if my boy Cap is still in there, he'll like this. I'm taking Missouri's team total over 85. Now, this line wasn't necessarily out yet, but based on what the total is and the spread is at, I have to imagine it's going to be anywhere from 84.5 to 86. A side bet I'll give out is Oklahoma State money line, just in case you can't get this right now. But Missouri, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that this is going to be a shootout, and I'm not on the over only because Mizzou has played good defense lately. But Alabama is still going to be running no matter what. They're going to get theirs. But more possessions from Alabama's pace leads to obviously more scoring opportunities for Missouri, who already has an elite offense. Alabama's number one in pace in the entire country. Missouri's 169th, so they're about middle of the pack. But they do run faster at home by about 2.3 possessions. So they're already running faster with this split. They're going to see Alabama, who's going to give them even more possessions, and an Alabama defense that doesn't really like to play defense. I'm all over that. Missouri also has scored in the 80s 5 of their last 7 games, and Alabama has allowed 80-plus in 6 of their last 8 games. Now, I know the total is going to be anywhere from 84 to 86, but I do think it's going to be a close game. I think on top of the high pace, there's going to be foul shots coming down at the end of the line, extra possessions at the end of the game. So I'm going to take my chance. I like Missouri at home going over their team total against this Alabama team that, they just can't play defense. They could run, they could score, but they got to play defense too.
Oh, their defense is awful. They cannot stop to save them life. Missouri has been a team they were awful last year. I don't think they won a conference game, and now they're ranked. They're going to in a position to definitely try to make it to the Sweet 16.
It's like Missouri football and Missouri basketball just got some secret NIL money, and now all of a sudden they're pretty damn good in both.
Talk Alabama, Missouri to me. I like Alabama -1.5, projecting at 9 with my model. Missouri is completely healthy at home. Yeah, I think to me this game is going to be a what's the word I'm looking for? Shootout. Alabama can't.
Yeah. And I'll add, I didn't take Missouri because I could still see Alabama winning. I could see Alabama winning 97-90. Yeah. Their offense is no joke. I'm just saying Missouri's defense, my model has them allowing only a 0.94 defensive efficiency, or having 0.94 defensive efficiency, which is very good. It's the only thing I could see is Alabama running into a good defense here and maybe getting stopped a little bit, but it's not going to stop Missouri from getting their possessions and Alabama running. So I've just played it a little safer, but if I had to pick a side, probably would be, Cap, hold your ears, would be probably Bama money line, but I'm going to stick with my team total over.
Caps loving Mizzou. My next bet, I am going to Georgetown -3.5. Look, Providence just had their biggest win of the year over the weekend over Villanova, where they shot lights out. Marquette is on deck. Perfect letdown, look ahead spot. Bounce back for Georgetown, who is awful on the road with their loss against Butler. Georgetown lost by 10 to Providence back in January. And I know Sabers went out in the Butler game. When he went out, offense and defensive struggle. Look, right now he's a game time decision. But with the way Providence plays, 3-guard lineup, really don't do anything on the interior, very an exterior type team. So even with him not there, it's not going to be a defensive liability. Hoya's 15 wins, fighting for that NCAA tournament, 12-4 of the season, second best defense in the Big East, and Providence struggles away from home, 2-6 on the road this season, just 4-6 in their last 10. Excuse me. Shooting regression favors Georgetown. Providence shot 48% from 3 against Nova. Best shooting game of the season, unlikely to repeat. Georgia's second best defense in the Big East. They're going to force Providence in some tough shots. Excuse me. Butler just shot 58% from the floor, 45% from deep against Georgetown. Those are some negative shooting regression numbers. You just play the second best defense, and they gave up those numbers. I'm expecting their opponent in this game, Providence, to struggle. Georgetown shot just 24% from 3 and deep, due for some positive shooting regression. Georgetown should be able to control the glass, 71st nationally in offensive rebounding, extra possessions, second chance points. And then when I look at the turnover edge, this stat really stood out to me. Georgia averages 8.3 steals per game. Providence allows 9.1 steals per game, ranking 354th in the country. I think these turnovers are going to lead to some easy baskets. I'm going to take the Hoyas here, take care of business at home. I'm laying the points. Give me the 3.5. Don't worry about this trend. Providence has dominated recent matchup against Georgetown, winning 8 straight and 18 of the last 21 since 2015. I've got down too.
I gotta add. I do have written down right here Georgetown money line as a lean. I'm probably gonna throw them in like one of my legs of my parlays, but I also did like them too, and couldn't have said it any better than what you just said.
How can I word this? If Cooley doesn't make them a run next year, do you think like Georgetown has to seriously have that conversation? Like, did we hire the right guy?
Dude.
Because they have NIL money.
Yeah, they do have NIL money, but it's always like, how long do you give the guy to bring his people in, to bring his recruiting classes in, to actually make the statement like, all right, well, this isn't my team. It's a team that I inherited, and now I'm finally getting the people that I want and the recruits that I want and the transfers that I want. And I think that way of, even in professional, like the NFL, college football, it's like, look at Sirianni. They were trying to get him fired of the season, and now he won them a Super Bowl. You know, like where there's not, when is the level of there's enough patience or this guy just sucks?
That's a great analogy. You know what I mean? Like you have to.
So we don't have to make those decisions.
Yeah. Oh, here's an interesting one. Stats, don't take the money line, just bet the team to win and take the points. Stats show teams will win and cover 80% of the time. Next bet, my friend.
Especially with a lower spread. Yeah, so I see
real quick. What? So I don't like laying big numbers. What is like your cutoff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is your number when you're laying like these, like, because you mentioned small spread, and I love taking small spreads.
You and I both.
4 is kind of like as high as I'm going to go.
Yeah, I don't even look at games, I'd say over 6, and that's only if it's a game that I'm really interested in, or I'm like, something's up with this line. So maybe I'm missing an injury, or maybe there's something up, and I'll look into it a little bit. And if I find nothing, I'm like, all right, I have to crunch these numbers. Like, this isn't making sense to me from a bird's eye view. What am I missing here? Like, but I like to keep, if there's 15 games that are anything from a money line pick 'em to like 3-4 spread wise, I'm just doing my research on those teams, because it just makes it easier for me to be like, well, why are they plus 3.5 when I'm seeing that they should win this game, For me, I look at it like, if I like a team and I don't want to lay over 4, with how live betting has gotten, I can just sit it out and wait. I'm not going to rush in to do anything. Yeah, I agree. And also, it's kind of funny. David P chimes in. Anyone? Wow. Come on, David. You're taking my best bet of the day right now. Now I have to get into it, Erik. Now let's look at what Jake is betting. Jake, lay it on us. That's it. Temple, Charlotte, over 148.5. I'm putting 1.5 units on this. So right now, I might look at a couple more games tomorrow. Right now, this is my favorite play of the day. And I'll start by admitting both offenses, I mean, they're not great, but they're really not terrible. And they've been playing better than their season average over the last 3 games. So both of these offenses, mediocre, but they've been playing a little better, which is what you like to see in an over. But both of these defenses, they suck. Temple is ranked 231st in defensive efficiency on the season. Charlotte is ranked 331st in the season. For those that don't know how many teams are in college basketball, there is 364. So those numbers are terrible. Bring it to the last 3 games for each of them. Temple has a defensive efficiency of 1.165, which is god-awful. Managed to be worse in their last 3 games, and they have a 1.226 defensive efficiency in their last 3 games. On top of that, Temple does run quick. Now, I know Charlotte, they don't run the fastest, but Temple has the 24th fastest pace on the year right now. And even with Charlotte running slow, they've covered 148.5 in 3 of their last 5 games. And this has hit in 7 straight for Temple. I mean, Temple's just been an over machine. I think they're 20 and 5 to the over on the season. The one thing that I will mention is Jamal Mashburn is still questionable. He is averaging 22 points a game for them. He's probably one of their best scorers, if not their best scorer by far. Even if he doesn't play, though, I still like this. They didn't have him last game against FAU, and they still hung about 81 points. They put up 81. And with just this terrible Charlotte offense, I don't see them not doing the same, even if he doesn't play. Now, if he does play, I just like it that much more. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm totally aware of this injury, but it's not stopping me from completely fading a really bad Charlotte team, a really bad Charlotte defense, when both of these offenses are also trending in the right direction. So I just say Charlotte's bad defense. Temple has just equally as bad of a defense. So I like the over. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think this game is going to fly over. David chimes in, great minds on small spreads. Cutoff is based on league winning average. Example, college basketball is -9, so taking up to 4 or 5 points makes sense to keep an edge. Great minds again. Illinois sucks.
It is sports facts.
My last and final bet, and look, I'm doing it. I'm taking Arkansas plus 16.5. How much is too much? Auburn is elite, but 16.5 is a massive number and just way too much respect for them. I think this is a great time to fade them. Coming off a win over number 2 Alabama, potential letdown spot. Sometimes I just find these weird trends when I'm just messing around in my database and can't sleep. Teams that beat a top 3 opponent as an underdog and are home favorites in their next game, 46% against the number. So if you fade them, the last 20 years, you have 5% ROI. That's profit. When we look at Arkansas, it's playing its best basketball. It started out 0-5 in SEC play, but we're starting to see this. We've seen it in Kansas State. Robert Morris is another team. Teams that had this high turnover come February now in conference play are playing better basketball. And I think that's something we need to remember going into next season. 3 losses since the stretch by just 5 points. Already won at Kentucky and Texas, hung around, lost to 5 at home against Alabama. When we look at Pearl, big spreads, only 38% against the number 1, favored by 15 or more at Alabama. Calipari in his career, 56% against the number when getting 8.5 or more. When we look at Arkansas right now, first 4 in, according to Bracket Matrix. They don't really need to win this game in my eyes, but they can't get blown out. You know what I mean? If they go there and they lose by 20 or more, that's going to take a huge ding on their resume. Mm-hmm. They need to keep this game somewhat like within 15, in 12, which means a cover. When we look at Arkansas, 22nd defensive efficiency per Ken Palm. Auburn, the key number is 40. When they've shot under 40%, they have struggled. And I think Arkansas with their defense is going to be able to make that number realistic. But on the flip side, Arkansas needs to control the ball. If Arkansas goes in there sloppy with the ball, turning it over, they're really going to struggle. But I just think this number is too big. I think you need to fade Auburn coming off that big win. So I'm going to take Arkansas here, plus the 16.5. David chimes in. Charlotte excels in ball control. Temple may have an advantage on the boards as Temple ranks last in the conference. Jesus, 336 nationally. Wow.
I didn't even see that.
Wow. That is brutal.
That's what happens. Think about it. You have if your defense is so bad, you're either turning the ball over and giving extra possessions away, or you're allowing extra possessions on the offensive board. So that stat totally makes sense. I mean,
the million second chance points. My line is -16 for the matchup, so value in the dog. Someone going to give out Auburn at -2,800 for the money line for sure. Oh, yeah, for sure.
When was the last time Arkansas even lost by that much? Like Missouri? What was that? What?
They've just been playing so much better. Like, I know when Boogie went out, everyone was a little bit worried. But ever since the month turn in February, they have just been playing, a lot better ball. Just lost by 8 to Texas A&M, which top 10 team could make a run to the Final Four. Lost by 4. Yep, lost by 4 against Alabama. Lost by 18 at Missouri. That was bad. That was really bad. But ever since February has come, they won at Kentucky. They seem to be turning that corner a little bit. So I just think 16 is way too much. Now, granted, This is the same guy that took ASU plus 12.5 against Houston today, and they're getting completely boat raced. So I could be wrong, but you know what? We'll have to wait and see. Jake, it's been a fun 45 minutes. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I know it's late where you are in the sunny Florida with me freezing my ass off here in
It's a pleasure.
Chicago. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, and if they want to become part of the Better Process Discord, how they go about that and the cost and everything?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm mainly on X. You can find me at Money Badger Bets. And then I'm just joined the Better Process Discord about a month ago. We have a great group of guys in there, great community. You can join for $5 for your first month. So it's typically $24.99, which isn't even that bad, less than $1 a day. And you get access to collabs, ladder challenges, 5 different cappers are in there. Obviously, you have a decent little community. So we're building something good there. But for your first month, you could join and check it out for $5, and you get access to all of that. So the information is all over my X. But if you use code MONEY, you will get that promo for $5 for your first month. And then, come join the community. Always happy to talk through my plays on there. We're going to start some shows not too far in the future. So probably around MLB season, we all handicap MLB. So we'll keep that in mind for you too. But that's where you could find me. Always hit me up on X. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm very interactive with the community.
David P., thank you for answering all my questions. Great contact, David. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Jake. I like doing this because I'm allowed to meet new people, make some new friends. Appreciate you coming on. We'll have to talk. Look forward to having you on, hopefully, in the future. Make sure to give him a follow. Great talking, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you for having me. It was great.